Welcome back to Backcountry BSing, the official podcast of Shill Brothers Outdoors.
Yep, another fun one for your lockdown experience.
Yep, we've been trying to talk to Plugitinhikes for a long time, and now that coronavirus is still going on, people have nothing better to do.
Yeah, I know. And if
so we got him.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Plugitinhikes, he's in all the videos, all the YouTubes.
Yeah, he hikes with a lot of famous YouTubers. He has a YouTube channel. He has a really good Instagram.
Yep,
and it's a good website.
And done just a awesome array of trails, from the Highline Trail to the JMT.
Yeah,
he's done all the Smoky Mountain stuff. It's just excellent person to talk to about just hiking in general.
So let's bring him in.
Let's do it.
So, sir, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. We've been wanting to talk to you for a long time. You go to a lot of very cool places to hike.
Yes, you do.
We're very jealous of that. And you have a really nice studio too. So because this current thing is going on, the first thing we kind of ask people is how's it going with the whole pandemic thing? You still safe? Because you're in Tennessee, right?
Yep, we're in East Tennessee, just outside of Knoxville.
Okay, so how has that area been faring?
It's actually not too bad for the most part. Most people are kind of heeding, everybody's recommendations, but you have those few out there that just don't care or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For those, you have to kind of deal with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is, it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah. So in Ohio, they're still allowing, because I know the Smokies is shut down. In Ohio, the national forests are still open for dispersed camping. What are they allowing you to do in Tennessee?
Well, the Smokies just opened back up.
Oh, they are
like
open.
On a limited, but it's kind of like limited. Your most popular trails are closed. They're limiting how many people can stay at certain campsites, certain shelters, things like that. And honestly, I don't even know if the shelters are even open.
Yeah.
I just know that some of the trails are definitely closed. The state park is running on the same kind of deal. They're back open, pretty much, suggesting, social distancing and things of that nature. So some state parks aren't open just because those areas are like very concentrated.
Okay.
You have to be on top of each other, but for the most part, most of the parks are open. I haven't actually been out. I've kind of elected just to kind of hang out here at the house.
Yeah.
Maybe ride my mountain bike a little bit here locally, just off to myself, or just spend time here in my gym. And this is actually my gym area.
You have a sweet gym. I've seen
doubles,
some. Yeah.
That doubles as my studio. So I keep tape on my rubber flooring where I can set up all my stands.
Yeah.
Like in a minute.
Nice.
So everything goes together pretty quick.
So
after this lockdown, are there any big plans this year, or have they all been kind of pushed back or changed, or?
Everything has been put on hold, basically.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had plans on actually hiking last week up in Pennsylvania for LHX 2020, where we were raising money for Reboot Recovery and Mission 22. That got scrapped. And then we were looking at maybe doing Portugal in June. Obviously, that got scrapped.
Yeah.
And right now, Corsica, which is scheduled for September, looking at the GR20, right now that is on hold.
Right.
Kind of like in a holding pattern to see what else happens. But honestly, I don't expect things to open back up in time for us to even do that one.
Yeah.
So my focus for this year is simply just focus on me.
Yeah.
I'm always out just hiking everywhere and doing this and doing that. And, I've taken a break from YouTube for a little bit, and it's just at a point to where, okay, maybe this is a sign that I need to slow it down just a little bit and start working on me, focus on my health, mental health, everything, and just try to, I don't know, maybe just level out a little bit.
This is the time to do it.
And that's, we've heard a lot of people talk about that, and you know, a lot of things have come out through the lockdown, and a lot of learnings about like who you are and what things are most important to you, and how you want to take advantage of this type of environment to better yourself. And so I think it's fantastic.
This is the time to do that. So I actually want to talk about, I want to go back in time here, because we always talk to our guests about this, but talk to us, because how did you get into backpacking?
Well, it was actually, whenever I was younger, I used to backpack a lot. My grandparents live at the edge of the Cumberland Plateau in a very rural area. So they live along when I say edge, I mean edge, like there was a cliff line that laced their property. So you could look out over the Tennessee Valley and see the Smoky, see the Appalachian Mountains on a low humidity day. And I remember just as a kid, here we are just cutting in little trails to different rock outcrops, that me and my cousins would call them lookouts. We had limited vocabulary apparently, because it was lookout 1, lookout 2, lookout 3. But we cut in trails to all these locations. And, just growing up there pretty much really just kind of like started planting seeds in me. My senior year, instead of going to Panama City like everybody else was, I went to Big South Fork and backpacked.
That's awesome.
And in my early 20s, I did that, did some backpacking, but I kind of got away from that once I started doing rescue work. It just required so much of my time. And I didn't get back into backpacking until about 2015. And it was actually Will Wood's video series on the AT that really just sucked me back in.
Wow.
Redbeard.
Yeah, I remember sitting on my bed just binge watching all that whole series. And never once in my mind did I ever think, man, maybe someday we'll be friends, or maybe someday we'll do a lot of epic hikes together, or someday we'll be in the film together, or, just all those variables, like, I would be friends with the zpacks guys too. None of that ever seemed remotely possible. What I didn't realize is the backpacking community is actually really small. It's really easy to communicate, laterally everywhere. You can pretty much connect with anybody. So that was really cool. And, here we are today, years down the road with a little bit of backpacking experience under our belt. And little did I know how instrumental backpacking would be as far as a healing process for me personally, and how many doors that would actually open.
How did you get hooked up with those guys initially?
I just started just communicating on social media with them, and went to trail days, met them one time, and next thing I knew, all the trail days after that, I was helping them in the booth.
Okay.
Staying with them there, and just connecting. And next thing I knew after that, I was going to the shop, hanging out down there a couple of times a year. Now, I still do that. I'll still go down, but this time, I'm going down about 3 or 4 or 5 times a year. I'll stay with my buddy Matt.
Details.
Details.
Yeah.
I'll stay with him, and I have a guest bedroom there. I tell him to just write me off on his taxes. So, but yeah, I mean, good people. Just really connected. I've got to know all of Matt's family and a lot of different people down there that works for zpacks. I've gotten to know a lot of employees, and and that really is, for me, I think is even more cool is not only some of the other companies that sponsor me and different things like that, but with companies like zpacks, I know some of the employees, so I know the people that are actually making the gear that I use.
Yeah.
It's like with Goose Feet Gear. I know Ben and his wife Ashley. I mean, they're good people. I know who's making my gear. Same for Evan over at BlackRock Gear and Rex. I know who's making my gear, and that's, for me, that's just way cool. And I know whenever I go to purchase more gear or whatever, I know who I'm supporting. I know I'm helping, individuals. I'm just not just not thinking about helping some foreign company,
Yeah.
way out there doing whatever. So I like kind of not necessarily keeping it local, but in a way, it is keeping it like here in the United States.
Yeah, and we certainly echo that as well. And we've been fortunate enough to talk to a lot of cottage manufacturers.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you how you, because I always see you repping, and we're huge fans of BlackRock gear. We're huge fans of everyone you just mentioned, but you're always rocking the woolly from BlackRock gear, and I love that thing. How did you meet them?
Well, crazy enough, I've never actually met them face to face. I was just a longtime customer.
Yeah.
And whenever I did the Smokies 900 miler, the FKTs that I did there in the Smokies, that kind of put me on the map and, just kind of made a lot of people aware of me. And I just reached out to Rex one time and Evan and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this next 900 miler and I plan on going faster and doing it in less days. Wonder if you guys would, want to sponsor me or whatever. And they said, yeah. So they hooked me up with, another down beanie and the woolly and stuff like that. And I think Evan got tired of seeing me because at the time I was wearing this Patagonia Capeline beanie or something like that.
Yeah.
This is before he came out with the woolly. And so he'd see me rocking that thing all the time. And next thing I knew, I had that in the mail waiting on me. I was like, try this on for a while. So I tried that and it worked out great and I fell in love with it. And then the Scully came out. The Scully he sent it to me, the prototype, and said, test it out, see what you think. Let me know if you think this is something that would sell. And I tried it on and wore it like for weeks and like maybe a couple months. And I just fell in love with that one because no matter if it was like super hot or whatever, it still worked out. It still helped keep sweat out of my eyes and different things like that. So it was cool to help that product come to the table, I guess, get, bought by everybody, I guess. But yeah, that was really cool. And, just the way that I try to help my sponsors out, always trying to just keep people aware that, hey, they're here. And these are small businesses. These aren't people that are out here like living in big, extravagant houses or anything of that nature. These aren't big businesses. These are little guys. They have families. They're going to soccer games. They're going to baseball games and different things like that. So it kind of, for me, it became more important for me to like just kind of help those people out. So every time they would run a sale, I would share that. Or if they would give me a promo code, I would push that and try to help give them a little more business. But I couldn't ask for better people. I know Evan has invited me up to hang out with him for a few days. This was way back before the COVID deal kicked in, so I'm just kind of waiting to give that some time, and we may make a run to Seattle.
That's right. That's where they are. Yeah, I forgot that's where they are. Yeah. And that woolly, I think, I wear it running, I wear it backpacking, I wear it for a lot of stuff. It's really good. Hold on. You mentioned what FKTs do you own right now? Like, do you still?
Well,
or did somebody overtake any of them?
No,
Nice.
I'm still the current holder. Okay, the Smokies 900 miler is basically whenever you hike all the trails in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park boundary, you become part of the club, per se, the 900 miler. Now, there's only 803 miles of trail in the park, but there used to be 900 miles. Just over the years, the park decommissioned trails and things of that nature, but they kept the trail, things the same way. The Smoky Mountain 900 miler club is the ones who govern this. So the park has nothing to do with it. It's all about this one club. And I just kind of stumbled across it, in 2017, the winter of 2017. I did all the trails in the park in the fastest known time, which was 78 days. And I did them in the most efficient manner, which was 944 miles at the time.
Right.
Now, at that time, there were also a handful of trails that were closed from the recent Smokies fires. I took that information, and that was kind of funny because I didn't even intend to do an FKT. That one, I was just wanting to get them done so I could get back to work. And the first month, I was working 3 days a week, so I wasn't hiking 3 days a week during that whole deal. So at the end, it wasn't until the end until I decided that I found out an FKT existed, and like, heck, okay, I'll do it. And at the end of this thing, it was just so crazy. I mean, all these people were there at the finish because we do like one of the things about the 900 Miler Club. You line people up in 2 rows, they get their trekking poles, and you have a tunnel. So you go through the tunnel, to your trailhead to the last one. And there were so many people there. I mean, there were probably like 50 yards or longer of people. And because it'd been advertised on TV, someone found out I was finishing, at a designated time, at a designated location. So all these people were showing up to be a part of this because it was like all over the news. All 3 news channels were talking about it. I was on the front page of the Knoxville News Channel. It was like psychotic. And honestly, it's a little bit embarrassing because it didn't even resemble an FKT.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. I mean, it was one of those things I couldn't even go to the grocery store without someone recognizing me.
Oh, nice.
So it was kind of crazy. So I decided the following fall of 2017, I was actually going to do an FKT and show everybody what that's supposed to look like. So I took my trail data. I had a friend that had a program that he borrowed from one of the government labs. I can't say which or where, but he had a program. He put in the park's digital data for the trails. Then he overlapped that with my trail data. And that computer system told him where I was hiking too much. My routes, how I can make my routes more efficient. So
That's
I
cool.
went from 78 days to 43 days.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I did, instead of 944 miles, I even dropped it down to 924. And that is even after the park even opened up some of those trails that were originally closed. So I was able to go quite a bit more efficient. And that's how I got it. So my official time is 43 days, 924 miles. And actually, I have a couple of friends that are set to attempt to break that this fall, I hope, if COVID lifts.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny story. I was actually going to go back and do it this spring. And they had reached out to me to see if I would let them do it because they want to raise some money for the park's rescue team.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I have rescue experience. And so I was like, sure, go ahead. I'm all about it. And I think their plan is to try to break my record in by a few days. I would like to come back in the following March. So maybe this time next year. Actually, I prefer February, but maybe do that in 30-ish days.
So
what I would like to do.
When you did that record attempt, were you also working on at the same time as well?
No, that last one I took time off from work. So I told all my customers, you're gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. And as soon as I'm done, I'll get to you. And everybody was like very gracious and willing to wait. So that worked out for me, I suppose. I'm sure some customers went somewhere else, but that's bound to happen.
Yeah. And then with that type of, I can only imagine the logistical challenge of trying to figure out the routes.
I tried to do the math in my head while you were talking of the average daily mileage. That's like 40 or 50 miles a day, right?
No, the average mileage for that hike was 22 miles a day, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay.
So it wasn't too bad.
But for 40,
that wasn't what I did every day. There were days that I did 8 miles. There was a day I did 10 miles. I know there at the end, there was a few days like Thanksgiving, and the day after Thanksgiving that I made very short days because I had family and friends that wanted to hike with me on this particular hike, and nobody could do 30s. So I did 10s those days. So I left a lot on the table. I started out, actually that hike, I didn't even train going into it because I had plantar fasciitis really bad. So I went from the couch to the trail like
Oh, wow.
overnight.
Jeez.
Yeah, so my first few weeks, my first 2 or 3 weeks, I was only doing like maybe 15 miles a day,
Mm-hmm.
in an enormous amount of pain each
Yeah.
day. But my max mileage, in that process of trying to make up some of those mileages, I did 35 miles in the 30s quite a few times there just to kind of make some of that extra mileage back up towards mid and late hike.
What's the and I want to go back to what you said. How hard was the logistics of doing that with like resupplies and all that sort of stuff?
Resupplies wasn't too bad. I kept a lot of supplies in my truck. So I would make sure that I had pretty much everything set. Occasionally, I would go into Cherokee and get some fresh veggies or something like that, or some milk. Kind of crazy when I'm on trail. I really crave milk bad,
Yeah.
or at least I used to. And so I would just want to get like fresh foods and things of that nature. Sometimes I would just sleep in my truck in the parking lot of the IGA there in Cherokee. But yeah, I would just wake up next morning, get back to the trail before daylight, and get started again.
So this is kind of like a geek question. How many like calories were you consuming during that per day? Did you
During that time I was doing, because I wasn't really pushing big mileage.
right?
I mean, there was probably a few handful of times I was doing 30s plus. Those days I would eat a little bit more, but on average I was taking in 4,000 or 5,000 calories.
Nice.
Okay.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah, I just try to eat as much fatty foods as I could and some proteins and some carbs where I need them.
Yeah.
What's like what are you eating the most of when you go out there?
I eat a lot of almond butter.
Okay.
I'll have almond butter. I'll have, maybe some tortillas, some wheat tortillas. I try to eat as clean as I can.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Obviously, back then when I was doing that, Evergreen Adventure Foods wasn't around or anything like that. My friends Toast and Jams hadn't created that company yet. So my food options, were just, your typical backpacking food. And I really didn't want that.
Yeah.
I wanted something more healthier for me than just junk.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And unfortunately, a lot of your backpacking foods is just junk. I mean, they pass it off as good, but at the end of the day, you're still dealing with just, lots of just stuff that's in there that's really not really good for you to consume day in and day out.
Right.
Weekends, sure,
Yeah.
it's not going to hurt you. But when you're out there 30, 43 days, let's say, you don't want that stuff to build up in your system too much.
Yeah, we did a podcast with a dietitian 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a clinical dietitian, and now she's gotten into backpacking and backpacking food. We talked a lot about how like your typical backpacking food is generally just crap.
It's just carbs and sugar.
It's just it's like highly, you know what I mean? It's carbs and sugar, and it's obviously not fresh. And her whole thing is, how can we fix that? And that's why Andy and I actually, we started to do a lot of our own dehydrating over the last couple of years because we kind of got fed up. There's only so many times you can have like chili mac from Mountain House.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Pasta size.
Exactly.
There's only so many pasta sides you can get before it just starts to get repetitive. And I can't imagine doing it for 40 some days.
Yeah, that would just be insane. And that's why I try to get into town, when I could, which was usually about once a week, to just try to get something fresh. And then locally, I had a lot of friends that would come in and bring me stuff. A few times friends would bring me coffee. I really appreciated that because I don't cook on the trail typically, especially when you're doing something like that. You want to travel as light as you can. And so that worked out a lot. And, at the end, I had my pizza and beer celebration.
Yeah. One of the best things I liked about I watched all of your JMT videos last year, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious how every time you pick up a resupply, you had also a supply of Yeehaw beers for all your Summit beers, which was awesome.
Yeah, I actually did a video. Now, that's kind of funny, that whole Yeehaw deal. I had some friends that worked for Yeehaw at the time, and we were actually working on a sponsorship with them.
Oh, nice.
So they hooked me up with all kinds of gear and all kinds of beer too. So with the JMT, I shipped a bunch out there, and to take with me as I'm on the trail every once in a while. And it just hit me at, I took one up Mount Whitney. I didn't drink it because the trail was really icy. Trail's crest was like super iced. And it's, you got some spots there that are pretty close to 1,000-foot drop.
Yeah.
Not really something you want to be like halfway drunk on. And I've been told, that one beer equals like 4 at elevation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I had no idea how any of that would affect me. So I was like scared like a little schoolgirl about, drinking anything up there on top. So I took it with me, took some pictures, got to the bottom, back to Guitar Lake, chugged that baby. And it was hot, and I hadn't figured out how to like keep my beer cold yet. So as I started, northbound, I would have like 1 or 2 here with me. I kind of figured out, take a Ziploc baggie. You're always coming across a patch of snow
Oh, nice.
before you get to a pass. So throw in a snow,
Nice.
1 can. And with that low humidity, it would chill that beer down within, a few minutes.
Oh, nice.
So I remember getting to these passes and just, it was a nice treat, number one, but it was like a mini celebration.
Yeah.
So you just pop that top and just chug it. And I actually recorded all those and made like a little small video called Beer Pass. It was as obnoxious as you could imagine it probably was. I would go up there, I would chug it, I would speak with attitude, I would belch into the camera, like bring it in close. It was just horrible. So I just made that one private. I was like, oh,
nice.
That was just too bad.
That's funny.
I was
we need to bring more Summit beers.
We don't have.
We don't have Summits.
I was surprised too. Like the thing that intrigued me the most was that did you ship all that out there? You shipped beers out in a.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually only did 1 shipment. I shipped to MTR, and so I shipped a couple beers into that one. But Chad Sticks Blog, Chad and I drove out there, so we actually hand delivered our one drop off at Red's Meadow.
Okay.
So that was the advantage, and I was able to start off with a couple of beers, because he had his car out there. But anybody, through hiking the JMT, I would honestly, I wouldn't even recommend resupplying at Red's Meadow. You can take a couple reasons. You can actually take a bus for like $7 down to Mammoth and back. So you can go into town, get fresh food, and come back for $7.
Yeah.
You can be able to eat, drink, whatever you want to do,
right.
Or even stay at a hostel, like Holiday Hostel or something like that, for like $40. So it's a great trail town. You can travel all over town on the trolley system for free. So once you're in town, you can go anywhere. You really don't have to walk if you don't want to. But I really like that. But the one thing that I didn't like is at Red's Meadow, they don't have a hiker box.
Mm-hmm.
So if you called and said, hey, I'm not going to be hiking through, just put that in a hiker box. They just give it to their employees. They don't put it in a hiker box. And they actually had told me that. And it really upset me because, I understand they're trying to, they got business and they're trying to sell food and trying to sell stuff and things like that. But I mean, sometimes if you show a little kindness and show hikers that you're trying to help them out as much as you can, they would probably tend to like buy stuff that they didn't pack in, that they didn't ship. So my stuff, I'd already went into Mammoth and got fresh food. So all my stuff I had shipped, I actually opened up the box on a picnic table, grabbed a Sharpie, put on their hiker box, and solicited other hikers, said, hey, you need some ramen? Hey, you need some soup or whatever? Just started handing stuff out like Santa Claus.
So the reason for not having the hiker box was that they were worried that it would take sales away from like their general store. That's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah. Now there's a hiker box at the little campground nearby, but they won't take anything over there to that. I know for certain. I had one employee tell me that. No, we just give it to our employees, or if it's something that can be sold, we'll put it on shelf.
Oh, yeah.
That's weird.
Okay. I feel like with all this hiking you've done there and the Smokies, you've got to have some good bear stories.
Actually, on both 900 milers, I only seen one bear
No
each time.
way. In the Smokies?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Believe it or not.
That surprises me.
Yeah, it does.
That
Now I've
because
seen more wild hog than I did anything, and those are the things you have to worry about. Bears, they're going to leave you alone.
Right.
They could care less. They want no part of you. But wild hogs,
wait, hold on. I
they'll
didn't know.
they'll
I
hurt
didn't
you.
I didn't I didn't know you have to be worried about. There's another thing to be worried about.
I
pretty
didn't know that they were that
I mean,
prevalent there too.
Yeah, we have them in a little patch of southern Ohio.
Mhm.
I didn't know they're all over the South now.
Yeah,
Is that will they like go after people?
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, I actually had one bluff charge me.
What?
I just
really?
come around, yeah, because the way that I was on the, I think, Cucumber Trail or something like that. So I was coming around this curve and it kind of zigzags out of the fingers of this ridge. And I'm going kind of fast. So I'm just kind of going through here and I come around the curve and there they are, like right on trail. There's kind of like a drop off. So there's no place for me to go here. There's no trees for me to climb. And I'm probably 12, 15 feet from this hog. And it was a big one. It was probably, uh, it had to weigh a couple 100 pounds. I mean, it was a big one. And I remember just looking at it and trying not to like make direct eye
Yeah.
contact, just kind of keep my head low and just slowly back out.
Yeah.
But man, that hair on that thing just went straight up and started snorting. And it had these tusks. I
Oh,
just
wow.
knew I was a dead man.
Oh, wow.
Fortunately, it took off the other way. But I can't tell you how many times I've run into like 20 or 30 hogs at one time.
What?
And yeah, and then on the North Carolina side, I was on the Hazel Creek Trail just before dusk. I was getting ready to go to my campsite during the last 900, and I came across this big hog. I mean, it was the biggest one I'd ever seen. I know these are almost like fish stories, so we can like tell you as big as we want. So
Yeah, right.
this hog was the size of a Volkswagen.
Jeez.
You know, it just seemed
Oh.
like it was that big, you know, in the woods.
Yeah.
Probably just because I was way too close.
Yeah.
But this thing was like in the middle of the trail, and he got pissed off at me and snorted and squealed and took off down the trail the same direction I'm going. I'm thinking, great. You know, how far is he going to go? Sure enough, he only went like a few hundred yards or less than 100 yards. But I come over this hill, and there he is again. He gets mad, does his whole routine, goes in the same direction. And we play this little dance
Mhm.
probably
Oh my
2 or 3
God.
times before he gets mad enough and he goes up the mountain. And it sounded like he was just destroying the rhododendron as he was just
Oh.
bulldozing his way up there. He was not happy. But yeah, I'm more worried about hogs than I am actual bears. And actually, I used to carry like some canine mace spray with
Yeah.
me for the bears. I don't even bother, you know, because if I was going to have to use that on the hog would use that as a breath mint as he's chomping down on me.
You're we've talked to a lot of people about crazy animal interactions. You're the first wild boar guest.
Yeah. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
there's all kinds in this area, especially East Tennessee, North Carolina. I mean, they'll just destroy the whole area. It looks like someone came in with the rototiller and
Yeah.
tilled it up.
I wonder if they pushed like the bear population out or around. Or
Do bears
something.
eat them?
No, most of your bears in the Smokies just eat plants, grubs, things like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Maybe a small rodent. You know, you typically the bear attacks that you've seen in the Smokies are either you've gotten too close to the cubs,
Yeah.
or you decided to eat your dinner while you were in bed,
Right.
so now you smell like your dinner.
Ah, yes.
So that's really in the end. I mean, because bears don't like target people. In fact, my 2 bears that I seen during my first 900, one was coming around down the AT, like you're approaching Shook Stack as you're entering the park going northbound. And I was going northbound, and this bear is coming southbound. And I seen him way out, and I thought, maybe if I just slide off the trail a little bit and just sit here quietly, I can capture him going by.
Mm.
Keep in mind, I would have been within about 6 to 8 feet of this bear.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
So I'm thinking about it, and then I'm thinking about all the hate mail I would get
Yes.
for even attempting such a thing.
Yeah.
So I thought, no, I'm just going to let him know. So I hollered at him, and And he just stopped and he's like, I heard something. What was it? And then I like waving my arms at him and yell again. He looks and he's like, oh crap. And he heads up the mountain again, just as fast as he could go. And
Wow.
that's the typical black bear response that you're going to get from the Smokies. They're going to hightail and go the other direction. If you want really close bear encounters, go to Gatlinburg.
Yeah, see,
So
I've been to Gatlinburg, and the only hiking and backpacking I've done in the Smokies is in the Gatlinburg area, and they're everywhere. So that's why I was like, 900 miles of Smokies, you had to have tons of black bears, but it sounds like they're just hyper concentrated in the Gatlinburg area.
They all live in Gatlinburg. They all have timeshares in Gatlinburg.
Yeah. So you've doing these FKTs. This is something we also talked about on a couple of our live streams. You do a lot of this stuff solo. Have you had any like really creepy things happen?
People always ask this question.
I stayed at a campsite where someone had actually been pulled out of their hammock by a bear.
Oh.
Yeah, like within like a year, and I stayed at the same campsite.
I remember that. Is that North Carolina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the Hazel Creek area.
I remember when that happened.
And I remember staying at that and somewhat I don't know, I felt like something was messing with me in the middle of the night, but I was so tired I couldn't how you have those dreams where you can't make yourself wake up?
Right.
It's like you try to scream, but you're just too tired or whatever it is. So I don't know if this is really a dream or what, but I felt like something was messing with my tent. And I remember just trying to muster up enough lung power to say a word or get something out of my mouth just because you're so tired, you're scared or whatever is going on in your head in that half sleep state. And I went back to sleep. The next morning, my head tie out on that wall was undone and laying on the ground. So something had definitely messed with it in the middle of the night. So I figured maybe hogs or maybe a bear tripped over it or something.
Okay.
But either way, I was too tired to wake up.
That's pretty creepy.
Yeah, it was like something like walking around the tent and like tripped up on it. Yeah, that's freaky.
That's freaky.
Yeah.
Do you prefer solo backpacking? Some people do.
I do for some things. I really do. I mean, even with my 900 milers, I had friends that would hike with me a day here or a day there.
Yeah.
Because I've got friends, that can do 20 and 30 miles. So, they were good. It wasn't until like Thanksgiving Day and the last day that, the person that hiked with me on the very last day couldn't do no more than 10 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my max mileage for that day. But for the most part, I hike, I enjoy those alone hikes, those times that you can kind of go through and clean off your desk. You guys probably heard me talk about it. It's like all the clutter that you have in your brain. I compare it to like a desk, and everybody's desk is piled up.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I'm out there hiking solo, I can pull one of those images of traumatic rescue scenes that I've worked on or just different traumatic things I've dealt with in my life. And I can just kind of deal with some of that, maybe try to get my brain to file it where it goes, to not just lay there on top of my desk, put it back in the memory where it belongs instead of just constantly just haunting me. And, you try to go through some of those things, but at the same time, I enjoy hiking with, like my close friends. I've gone to some amazing places, Scotland, Turkey, Paris. And I even enjoy urban hiking. It's where you're just hiking all over the city. We'll do 20 miles easily.
Oh, wow.
Around Paris, Copenhagen, London, whatever. It's really easy to like pack on those miles too. And you have different opportunities for photography, for videography in those areas, especially when you're hiking old cities like Edinburgh or Glasgow. You're getting a chance to see some areas that, you may never get to see again.
Yeah.
But I enjoy hiking with my close friends because you get to share those moments. You get to see the expression on their face and they can tell if, something's bothering you. Just like whenever we were in Turkey, Details, I mean, we were hiking along, and Details knows me probably more than anybody. And at the time I was going through, going through a divorce and different things like that. And it was just I had a lot of junk on my mind. I was fighting off depression with everything I could muster. I was trying to enjoy everything around me. You're also like battling off PTS from like trying to take over. And you're in the middle of all these things going on mentally inside of you. So it's hard to like really focus. Like, I have the Eiffel Tower in front of me, and I'm in Paris. It's like, how more cool is that? But yet you're fighting off, something that's trying to steal your joy. And I remember him just looking over at me a few times, and he could see it. And he would just grab me by the neck, and put his arm around me and goes, "Can you believe we're in Paris, or can you believe we're in Istanbul?"
Yeah.
Just on these epic adventures,
Yeah.
just trying to get me to snap out of it a little bit. It's like, hey, I know you're fighting this, but look at what's surrounding you.
Right.
We love you. We're here to support you. So that just really meant a lot. And him and I, we've had a lot of conversations since about that, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate him for noticing that. And even whenever I was out in Arizona, out there doing some hiking with Darwin, I can't say enough about him. He sensed that same thing in December whenever all that was fresh with me, and just kind of reminded me that, hey, you're surrounded by people that love you. You're not alone. Because in those moments, you feel like you're alone, like you're on a desert island. But in reality, you're not. So many other people are fighting off different things or dealing with stuff. And, sometimes people just need a little break.
And that's a theme for like a lot of people when they go on like long distance through hikes or when you watch like these daily vlogs of people doing like the AT or the PCT or something, a lot of conversations around like trying to work through serious issues that they've been dealing with, and in trying to confront those. And I think like one of the I don't know if you follow Ivy Tat at all, but
I spoke to him a few times, met him a few times.
Oh, cool.
Good guy.
Yeah. One of the things that struck me is on his PC, one of the vlogs on his PCT. He was in like Oregon or Washington or something, and he had this. He said this thing that I think struck a lot of people. That's like, I think the exact words is we'll keep hiking, we'll keep healing, and that seems to be a trend that like a lot of people, are trying to work through.
And there's a guy on Instagram we follow, Todd Instalife.
Yeah, Todd. Yeah.
Shout out to Todd. He's a nurse, and he talks openly, about PTSD from. He's a trauma nurse, I think.
Yeah.
Emergency nurse. But he does a lot of backpacking and hiking, and that's also his like way to heal. So it seems like that's a good strategy.
Yeah, I think it takes some of the noise away from.
I like the
life.
decluttering the desk analogy. I liked that one.
Yeah,
that's really good.
That's really the best way I've ever been able to describe it to anybody, because your brain just works in such a funny way. Obviously, I was an EMT, firefighter, rescue diver for well over a decade. Taught swiftwater rescue, was on the state swiftwater rescue team for a pretty good while as well, and. During that time, you see a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You see a lot of horrific vehicle accidents. You see gunshot wounds. You see unexplainable deaths. You see a lot of drownings. And unfortunately, that's par for the job. And I stumbled back into hiking and didn't realize it, but hiking was healing me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I had someone in my life during the last, probably 6-7 years or so, that triggered me, that would just trigger everything in the motion. And once triggered, it's almost like you're hanging on like a violent roller coaster ride, like a wooden roller coaster ride. But then all you're seeing is just all this traumatic scenes just flashing. and you just can't get away from it. It's like a nightmare that keeps chasing you. That almost like a Groundhog Day situation where it's just over and over and over. And so I stumbled back into hiking. That kind of figured out, okay, this is helping me a little bit. I'm not triggered quite so easily. And in 2019, I had a lot of injuries, so I didn't get to hike that much. I did the TGO challenge, but outside that was it. And so I stayed home a lot, and I was like triggered like almost every other week, and they kept getting more and more violent. And I was seeking help. I was trying, I was going to therapists and different things like that. And nothing was really working. Then I stumbled across Reboot Recovery. And Reboot Recovery actually worked for me. I went to my first course, my first class on October 7th. My last episode was October 8th. Today is 217 days PTS episode free.
That's awesome.
And I contribute, number one, hiking has played a big, huge part of that healing. Their trauma healing course has filled in those other gaps. And then my faith has filled in even more gaps. The way I look at it, it's like having a glass mason jar. You throw in a bunch of like 1-inch marbles in there all the way to the top. You think your jar is full, but it's not. You have all those little cracks and crevices. So you throw in Reboot Recovery in this jar, which represents maybe small 1/8-inch pebbles. So it's filling in all those little cracks. You think your jar is full, right? No, you still have spaces in there. Then you take faith as fine-grained silicate sand, you throw in that jar, and it fills in even more stuff. Now your jar is full. So it took all those elements, all those components for me to get to where I am today. And without my faith, without Reboot, without hiking, I wouldn't be standing here, 217 days. I know for a fact in December, there's no doubt in my mind that I would have been triggered easily, hands down. That would have happened. Just because my situation here was just so toxic. And, I was able to, number one, recognize my trigger. Number two, learn better coping mechanisms and learn how to deal with that trauma and deal with this and line up and to control my responses to the things that were hurting me. And I didn't have to respond with pain. I didn't have to respond with hurtful words or yelling or arguing or anything of that nature. Or I didn't have to go sleep in my truck for a couple of days because I get so worked up that I can't be around people. I can't be around myself. I just need total darkness, total silence for at least 48 hours. And, I praise God I'm not having to do that now. I'm here in my own house. It's peaceful. It's quiet.
Yeah.
And just me and my daughter. And I appreciate, just having this one-on-one time with her and just being a parent.
I've seen you talk on Instagram a lot about Reboot Recovery. What is, and it's not something I know anything about. What is specific about that is so helpful?
Well, Reboot Recovery is a nonprofit organization based out of Middle Tennessee, and they assist military veterans, first responders, and their families that are coping with mental traumas like PTS. PTS being post-traumatic stress. I prefer not to call it PTSD because it's really not a disorder.
Yeah.
It's really an injury to the brain and an injury to your soul. If you really dig deep, if you really want to know why you have paramedics or you have people in the military that go in for the best reasons in the world, they want to help people, they want to make a difference. And then by the end of their careers, they don't care if they strap you down on the gurney or not. Just get in my bus. They just have like poor attitudes. They just want to go home. They're dealing with divorce left and right because their spouses don't even know who they are because they've changed. And that change can only happen when there's injury to the brain and injury to the soul. So these people are changing on a like deeper level, just not an outer, just not something as simple as just the brain. So, but the Reboot makes this free to everybody who comes
That's cool.
and participates. It's free. They will provide free childcare and they
Wow.
feed you. So there's no reason why you can't go. And Reboot Recovery has saved so many marriages, saved so many lives. I mean, for me, I found Reboot Recovery a little bit too late to save my marriage. And you know, my wife just simply did not understand PTS. You know, and it's hard for someone to live with or deal with or whatever if they don't understand it, if they don't take that time to learn, you know, or have that initiative to want to make that marriage work or whatever. But Reboot Recovery is amazing. It's a complete godsend. Their courses are faith based, so they're biblically based, and that kind of helps back up, you know, a lot of the things that we use for healing, backed up with scripture. And you know, whenever you're fighting something, whenever you're struggling, whenever you're down, whenever you're just clinging on to just anything, most people turn to faith. You know, you got to have faith in something, no matter what religion you choose. You got to have a faith in something, and Reboot is no different. Their courses are faith based, and for me, I'm a follower of Christ, which lines up with Reboot's, you know, courses and stuff like that. So it made it like really easy, really similar or familiar for me, because a lot of teachings I already knew. I just didn't know to apply them or how to understand them on a deeper level. But you know, I can't thank Reboot enough. I mean, those people, and it's not taught by instructors or just professional instructors. These are like fellow first responders.
Yeah.
You know, fellow veterans who are just, they've gone through it. You know, they're struggling with PTS. They're dealing with it. They've gone through these classes just like I am, and now I teach as well. I'm also a leader in the first responder courses.
Oh, nice.
So I've gone from just as a student to an instructor. And as part of these, you're also building up community. You know, you're building up fellow first responders that are struggling, and, you know, things happen out of nowhere and you don't have anywhere to turn other than someone that you know is going to understand what you're dealing with. You can't just turn to a regular therapist because they've never struggled with PTS. They don't know. They'll tell you how to fix it, but they really don't know. So that's why Reboot is different. These people know, they dealt with it.
Yeah, and I think that the sense of community with whatever you're trying to heal from is generally like a factor that can play extremely positively into that. And so I've seen like a lot of different types of healing based on like community. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, just sharing commonality helps by itself.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, last night I graduated from my 4th Reboot class.
Oh, nice.
And then in 2 weeks, I'll graduate from another one because I tend to do a couple of different classes at the same time. They're just kind of staggered by a few weeks. But, you know, I do that to not only support my fellow leaders, you know, because I also help teach those classes too from time to time, but also just to kind of help, you know, the fellow participant. Because people that are new to the program, that are new coming in, they're quiet, they're really shy, they don't know what they're getting into. They're at the end of the rope. You know, a lot of these people have already tried to commit suicide, have, you know, maybe been on medication for God knows how long or whatever. They just need to know someone in the room has been where they're at, and they need to see where they will be if they assert themselves. And I'm there just to show that, hey, the program works. Number one, you know, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And, you know, unfortunately, part of the program is you got to share your story.
Yeah.
And for me, which was kind of easy because I've been sharing my story ever since I've been able to, you know, really figure out I had PTS. And, you know, having social media, I just felt this strong desire to kind of give back and maybe help that one person that is afraid to talk about it, afraid to go to a course like that, afraid to be publicly shamed or whatever they feel, or maybe even be demoted. Unfortunately, in the first responder field, if I'm an EMT nowadays, if I was an EMT and I went to my supervisor and I said, hey, that call we just ran, with that fatality, that that's messing with me a little bit. I don't feel good. I'm struggling with that. They automatically pull me off the truck and put me behind a desk, or make
Yeah,
me
wow.
stay home for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, how's that helping me?
Right,
That's
right,
not helping
right.
me. So a lot of these guys and girls, they won't even think about going to their supervisor to say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And so a lot of them end up, you know, in addiction, taking pills or whatever, getting reckless behavior, maybe losing their marriage, whatever the case may be, because they feel like they're all alone because they can't talk to anybody about it, or they're going to lose their job. And that's where they just start in the nosedive.
Wow. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then when you think about the situation that we're in right now,
Yeah.
and you think about
Yeah.
these ground zero hospitals like in New
Oh my
York, and
God.
all these healthcare workers that, and I know that there's talks around like trying to put things in place to assist them after this is all done, but this is like, when the country goes back to normal at some point, there's going to be a large group of people that do
Yeah.
not go back to normal.
Yeah. I didn't even think
Oh,
about
there's
that.
And
no question.
what are we
Even
doing
in
to?
some of our
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in some of our courses, I mean, we have nurses, all kind of healthcare workers inside those courses that are already starting to attend these classes, and I think we're going to see a huge influx of that as time goes on. I've got friends that have gone up to New York to help out in those hospitals and things of that nature, and they've told me some of the things that they've seen, and I couldn't imagine,
Mm-hmm.
witnessing, death on that magnitude, just vast numbers, to the point to where your morgues are full
Yeah.
and you've got, you know, trucks with freezers on them to store the bodies in.
Right.
I couldn't imagine having to work and having to deal with that. But it's a reality, and all these, healthcare workers are going to need our support
Yep.
when they need our support now, but they're also going to need it whenever this is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think organizations like Reboot Recovery are going to be able to help these people just kind of process what they've kind of like dealt with. They'll help them understand the trauma, the types of trauma, because these things bring out trauma has a way of just pulling other traumas out.
Yeah.
Like if you were abused as a child, you might have forgotten about it, out of sight, out of mind, just moved on. Some of these traumas like trigger memories, and all of a sudden you remember all these hurtful things that happened to you as a child or in past relationships or whatever, and all these tragic losses in your life all of a sudden rise to the top and you feel like you're drowning.
Yeah. Those are wise words.
I know.
Yeah, didn't mean to bring the mood down.
No,
super.
man. No. This
Just
is
a little dose of reality.
No.
I think it's certainly helpful for people listening who
There's
are
so
dealing
many.
with
There's
this.
there's so
to
many
listen
people
to you.
that struggle every day with
Um,
this type of stuff, and to hear
Yeah.
and to hear other people
Yeah.
that go through the same thing is very important. So
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
this is
I
real
mean,
life.
I can tell you that I'm getting a lot better as far as dealing with my traumas and things of that nature. Like I said, 217 days since my last PTS episode, so that's a victory in itself. And I do count every day because that's a small victory in a very large battle.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter if you're dealing with alcoholism or whatever you're dealing with, count each day that you're sober. Count each day that you go by without having to struggle with that or that you defeat that, because that's one day that you can add to the victory in that very large battle. And then let's say you slip up and you fall and you like succumb to that, get back up, get right back into the fight, and you start back at day one again, but you know how far you made it before, and that's your goal to get to that and past that. So every time you get a little bit further, you're carrying that ball a little bit further. If you drop it, fine. Pick it back up and continue to go forward. Just don't give up and say, okay, well, I had a beer. I'm drunk. I'm just, that's how I'm just going to stay.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. Everybody messes up. Everybody falls. Everybody fails. It's what you do afterwards. It's what counts.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm thank you for sharing your story
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
And thank you for being on this podcast. This was really good. I really hope people listening.
One last question. We try to keep these about we try to keep these about an hour, and so like I definitely
that's fine, man.
I definitely wanted you to talk a little bit about Highline.
I know we should have talked about Highline.
Yeah.
I know.
And that's like I haven't seen the documentary yet. But I watched all the everybody's YouTube videos that were coming out of that trip, and it was absolutely beautiful. But could you definitely talk about about the documentary and what you guys have been up to with it, and where to get it?
Absolutely. Well, right now, Highline is available for direct download. You can get it off iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Microsoft Video, and Vimeo. You can get those means. You can get on DVD or Blu-ray. You go through Highline films.com, I think that's the website, or highlinefilm.com or outmersivefilms.com, either one of those. Yeah, I mean, Highline is out there. Everybody's able to watch it now. Before COVID hit, we were kind of doing a media tour.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember
showing
seeing
it all the REIs were starting to pick it up, and I was going to all these down here in the South, traveling everywhere, just showing it, making new friends. That was really cool, but COVID hit, so that all shut down. We were able to get it released a little bit earlier than what we planned, and so far the response has been really good. A lot of people are liking it. A lot of people are finding encouragement through it. It is a good hiking video, but also has a lot of history about the Highline, about the Uinta Mountains and the local area there in Utah. But it also tells the stories of 5 hikers and these 5 friends of how they're kind of connected in a little different ways. And all of them come from different backgrounds and different experiences. And as you watch the film, each story gets more and more dramatic. And when we were making this film, Chris told me that my story was going to be the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so how jacked up is my story? Because that is like really bad. Couldn't find out my story is really messed up, but it has a great ending. But yeah, it was a great hike to do. I really enjoyed it. The Uinta Mountains were just amazing.
Yeah.
I had just come from the JMT, so I just come straight to Utah from California. And I tell you, I was just floored. I wasn't expecting Utah because I've never been to Utah, so I didn't have no idea what to expect. But it was absolutely stunning, absolutely breathtaking. And I can't wait to go back. I'm hoping maybe this winter, maybe go back and do a little bit of ice fishing.
Oh, nice.
And,
get some trout.
Yeah. Because when we were out there for the world premiere in Vernal, there were a lot of people out on the lakes, ice fishing, and I've never done that before in my life. And I was talking to a few locals who invited me back, and talking to Devin that does the Backpacking Experience podcast. Mm-hmm. And he invited me over to do some ice fishing. So I've got to do it. I mean, I have to do that. And and I actually have a friend, I guess you could say a friend. She's more of a follower that's over in Utah, and she's actually a river guide.
Oh, cool.
So I want to try to do some fly fishing. I would love to do another trip out there where I could do some fly fishing and all that, and just kind of learn that skill a little bit better than what I know it.
Yeah. Well, Devin's becoming a pro at it.
That much.
Yeah, you got Devin. He's doing that a lot.
Yeah, he's getting good.
Yeah. We will put links to Highline, everything in the description of this video too. Mm-hmm. So please check that out. Yeah. All right, sir. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
This is fun.
No, this was very, very educational
Yeah.
and important. So I appreciate you enlightening us and educating us on your situation.
Yeah.
And just showing how important like mental health is, especially right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Especially right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's tremendous. And I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine, especially right now where they're asking us to stay home.
Right.
You know, I have so many friends that are like losing their minds because they don't have anything to do. And I mean, personally here, I'm actually in my gym area.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been hitting the gym a lot,
Nice.
almost every day of the week. And if I can, there's like a gravel trail not too far from my house. I'll get my bike out and ride my bike on that.
Yeah.
Or I live 1 mile from a lake. I'll go down on the lake bank and just do a little fishing.
Nice.
You know, try to stay away from everybody and do things like that, but also try to just get that vitamin D.
Yeah.
Try to be outside. I've already done all the yard work I can do.
You
I've
run
already
out
painted
chores.
my house a million different colors. So what else is there to do?
Right. Well, you stay safe, sir. Okay.
Always.
All
Always.
right, man. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Y'all take care. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.